Okay, my friends, so finally I'm gonna do a little video on how to collimate your binoculars. That means to align the image on your binoculars. In this case, we're gonna be doing the prism adjustment or prism manipulations binoculars. We're gonna talk a little bit about the history later on. Basically, what to look for when you're buying binoculars. Which ones do you have? In other words, to my knowledge, there are two systems in how to collimate your binoculars. This is one of them. This is the easiest one. The other one is the eccentric ring system, which I still need to do a video on, but that's going to be a real hair puller because it's actually quite tough. It's doable, but it is very, very, very time consuming. You need a lot of patience for that one. And in this case here, I'm going to go ahead and do you some diagrams, and we're going to go ahead and show you what I have here is going to be an old vintage binocular here, the Kmart focal. This one is a 4 screws, one for each prism, and I have here recording on my cell phone here, and I'm going to zoom this up. Now, I'm going to show you a diagram, but I want you to see how the image moves. I am not moving the binocular. I am literally manipulating the screws so that the image changes. Now, the image that you see here is about as centered in that floodlight there for my neighbor's house as I can get it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play with the screw that's closest to we're working on the right side. I'll show you all that in a minute. And we're working on the right side, the eyepiece, not the objective lens. Remember, the objective lens is at the front of the binocular. The eyepiece is on the back side. And I am moving it a little bit, but watch what happens when I screw down or apply pressure to the prism. The image, as you can see, it's moving downward. But it isn't moving completely downward. It's actually moving at an angle. And this is what happens when I pull the screw out. It moves back again towards the center. Now, you're looking at this thinking to yourselves, oh, it moves all the way across the circle or the image, and that is actually not true. You only see that sort of image because I have the setup that I have is not really allowing me to show you this the way you would be looking at it with your eyes. So I'm going to go ahead and move this back towards the center, because now, oops, wrong way. See. Okay, let's see. Now we're moving. See, now we're moving back to the center. Now, when I moved it outward to the right, again, remember, this is not really moving straight up and down or sideways. This is actually moving at an angle. Now I'm putting this pressure on the screw again by screwing down on the little screw. Okay. Now this is the right eyepiece. Okay. Now I'm going to manipulate the right objective lens. Now it's a little bit dark here, but if you'll give me just a minute here, I gotta get this tiny little screwdriver in there, and it's really hard to see it. Very, very difficult, very annoying to see this thing here. But I'm gonna have a little diagram where I'm gonna show you the image actually bouncing around, and I'm gonna show you how this whole thing actually works. Now, the whole system is actually quite incredibly easy. The very first time that I did this, it took me about a minute. There we go. It took me about a minute to actually figure out what I was doing and to collimate my big Barska 2080 binocular. Now, I have the screw, or the little flathead screwdriver into the screw that's on the right side of the binocular on the objective lens. Now look what happens. Now this is moving to the left, but at an angle. Now I'm gonna unscrew it, and it's moving back towards the center. Now I'm still screwing. I'm still moving the screwdriver, but as you can see, the image isn't moving anymore. I'm still moving it, but it's not moving anymore. What does that mean? That means, and I'll show you in a minute, there is a limit to how much. Now I'm screwing I'm putting the screw back in, and you're gonna see it move back out to, let's say, the 10 o'clock position, right? If you're looking at a clock, you can see it moving to the left. Now we're gonna move back to the right. Now I'm gonna put it right back in the center. So I'm gonna show you in a diagram what it is that I was doing. We're not gonna do the left side because it's just too damn annoying, and you'll see in just a second what a contraption of a setup I've got. I'm using my Sony CX405 to record through the binocular. So yeah, that's a big old headache. So what was I doing? Okay, let me show you exactly here what I was doing, just so that we understand each other. Let me pick up the binocular. And like I said, this system is extremely simple, and it may sound like I'm making things very complicated, but the truth of the matter is, once you try it, trust me, you'll be shocked at how easy it is. Now, we were working on, here is, I said, here's my binocular, 1, 2, 3, 4 prisms, and we were working on the right eyepiece and the right objective lens. So number 1 or number 2 and number 4, right? Okay, so this is what's happening here. When I first manipulated the first image, right, or the first time, didn't the image move downward towards the left and then back towards the center, as I said? Okay, so screwing it out moves the image back towards the center. Now, you have to center the image, whatever it is that you've decided to focus on to make it your point of reference. That's going to be basically what I'm talking about, your center. And it's going to be somewhere in the center here. And when you start manipulating the screws, if you manipulate the number 2 screw on, or what I'm calling number 2 screw, which is on the right side, the right eyepiece, the image is going to move diagonally this way. Okay. Now, if you manipulate the screw on the same side, but on the opposite side, or the objective lens side, the screw is going to move again. Basically, your play, your play is going to move from around the center, a little bit over the center, towards the 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock position, and you saw that. Okay, you saw that. So what they're basically doing is this. Okay, this is the right side eyepiece. This is the right side objective lens. Okay, so basically the right side handles this side. Okay, which is funny because this is the left side of the binocular, right? Did you notice that? This is yeah, and the left eyepiece and left objective lens are going to handle this side. So in essence, what's happening is this. Okay, what's happening is this. Your right eyepiece, or your eyepieces, this is the left side. When you manipulate the screws, it goes from around center. It gives you the play of around center to around 4 to 5 o'clock. So it goes to the right. And this is the left eyepiece. When you handle the right eyepiece, it goes to the 7 and 8 position. It goes to the left. So it crisscrosses. Now, how do you reach the top, this part here? Well, if you look at this here, diagonally, that's how you do the other half of reaching across the circle or across the image. When you're focusing on something, your image can only go so far. Now, in the video you just saw, yeah, it looked like it went, it looked like it went all the way up here, but it actually didn't. It's just the way that the image is looking on when I'm recording it. But to be honest with you, once you've centered your image, like that lamp, that floodlight, you'll realize that, I'm screwing and screwing and screwing. Didn't I just tell you I was screwing and screwing and screwing, and it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't move anymore to a certain position. So it wouldn't go really past this area, because you're no longer you're applying too much pressure. Here you're not applying any more pressure at all, so you're not touching it. So it only went this far. And so each side is on the right eyepiece, halfway in the half centered image to the 7 and 8. If you wanted to go this far up, you would have to go to the number 3 prism to go the other side in the same direction this way, to the from center-ish to 1 and 2 positions, or clockwise over here. So they are opposite of each other. 3 and 2 are the ones that give you the line across, which is what this is here, this way across this way. And the 1 and 4, which is the 1 and 4, will give you the line of alignment that goes this way. So let's take a look at a little thingamabob there. Now, again, it is a million times easier than what I am explaining it as, but this is basically what's going to happen. Center your image. Okay, you've got your image centered, and well, which one is my center? You decide. It doesn't matter. You'll figure it out as you go along. If you reach, listen, if you reach, like I said, if you reach rock bottom, you put the screw all the way down, and your image is way down here, it's not going to work. You'll need to backtrack that screw out a bit so that you can have some kind of a play. Now again, you saw me pull the screw all the way out as much as possible so that there was no pressure. The image got to about right here, and I told you I'm screwing, I'm moving the screwdriver, but nothing's moving, because that's as far as it'll go. Once you release all the pressure, it'll go only to this far. When you're going this way, when you're going this way, you know, basically it'll just go around somewhere in the center is what I'm saying. So once you, now here's my amazing drawing of that lamp. Now here's the R and an L. Okay, that's basically my left eye, right eye is what I'm trying to tell you. Now here is, you close, now the way you figure out which is which one of these images is which, you close one eye and you leave the other one open. Then you close the other eye, you open the other one. So vice versa, one open, one close, one open, one close, one open, one close. And eventually, if they are far enough apart, you'll be able to distinguish, when I close my right eye, I see only the left. When I close my left eye, I see only the right. However, dun dun dun, plot twist. Sometimes, my friends, you see how this is the right one? Well, sometimes it's actually like this. You bet. You close your left eye, and the right image disappears. You close your left, you close your left eye and your right image disappears, and you close your right eye and your left image disappears. So that's, they're basically crisscross. But do not worry, okay? Do not worry. That's not a big deal. It's quite easy to fix once you understand the dynamics of one of the left eye handles this side, or the left eye handles this side here, and this side here, and the right handles this side and this side. Okay, so it really is no big deal. So you've seen stuff that's maybe side by side, and you basically bring one up and one down, and then you bring both of them down, one up, and trust me, you'll figure this out in like just a few seconds. It's the eccentric ring that's going to have you pulling your hair out. All right, so that's actually a billion times easier. Again, I keep saying it because it's true. It's a billion times easier than what you think. But let's go ahead and identify what kind of binoculars you have, because some people don't know anything about eccentric ring binoculars. And so I've read on forums like that Cloudy Nights. It's like, I can't find the screws. What happened to the screws? Well, that's probably because the guy didn't have the prism adjustment system that I just showed you. He probably had the eccentric ring system. So the eccentric ring system is something that was used in, I think, 40s, definitely 50s and 60s, and into the 70s, I believe. But the prism manipulation system, or the prism adjustment, is something you definitely started to see a lot more of in the 70s, 80s, and I believe pretty much all binoculars, modern ones, use that kind of system today. Now, what we have here, just an example of things to look for, is of course these very vintage, Civil War style binoculars. These were World War I style right here that were used by the Navy or the Signal Corps. Now, those have nothing. Those have no adjustments whatsoever. It's just no prisms or anything. Now this is a 1930s Dr. Volher binoculars here, used in Germany. The Wehrmacht did use these binoculars of this brand. I can't say that they use this one in particular. Okay, I'm not making any claims. Sometimes they were marked military usage, sometimes they were not, and so I can't really tell you. However, lo and behold, Prism adjustment system. So this stuff here, this prism manipulation, prism adjustments, is not new at all. It isn't new. It's just that during the 50s, 60s, and so on, they came out with this eccentric ring system, which was supposed to be a higher calibration, more fancier, precise calibration. But boy, is it a bitch, man. And the way you want to look at your binoculars is if you got something from the 50s and 60s, maybe even early 70s, you might be in for something. Now, when you pick up binoculars, you can see this notch here and a notch there. That's going to be a red flag as far as like, do you want to deal with these? Now, it is doable to collimate these binoculars, but it is much more difficult. Now, I took off what they call the beauty ring or the dew ring, and now you can see this silver part here is the locking ring, and the notches I showed you here are these here, and those are part of the one of the two eccentric rings for the adjustment of the alignment of the binoculars here. So it's very difficult to see how one side is thick and the other side is thin. And anyway, that's part of what the complication of that is. Now here we have my 1960s, I believe it's going to be 60s or early 70s Bushnell Ensigns. Now the Bushnell Ensigns were a very low budget binocular, and that's another thing. The eccentric ring circles, like I said, were fancier binoculars, supposedly. That's what they were using them for. And these were used, the prism stuff, the prism adjustment was used more on, more budget binoculars. The binoculars that we were using over there were my Kmart focals. However, here I have a much more modern Barska 8 to 24 by 50, and if you remove this rubber part, well, look what we have here. Prism adjustment and prism adjustment screws. Okay, so this is much more modern. I'm not sure how modern this is. It could be 90s, it could be into the 2000s. However, here is my ginormous 2080 Barska, and that also uses in here, if you can see that. Let me get a little closer and get a little sunlight there. Okay. Down here, you have a screw for prism adjustments. And in here, now you have to remove this rubber part here and the one in here as well. And obviously in here, you'll find the other screws for this. So it's basically in the same spot as the Kmart focal that I was using, and of course the same as the Bushnell Instafocus Ensign. So those are the kind of things that you need to look for if you don't want to deal with a 1950s and 60s eccentric ring circle. Those are the things you can look for, even though those are incredibly very, very high quality binoculars. I always recommend those, since I buy those a lot, and I've done reviews on some of those. Just absolutely gorgeous. But hopefully my video on how to manipulate the prisms here was actually helpful to you. Now, one other thing, I hope I'm not jumping in and out of consciousness here, but there's a little something that happens when it comes to aligning your binoculars, right? Your brain is, from what I've been reading and hearing, your brain is actually what sees the image. Your eyes are just there to tell the brain what you see. And the problem is sometimes, whether you have eccentric ring or prism adjustments, When you are looking at something and it's slightly off, you pick up the binoculars, you put them on your face, and for a brief second you're like, ouch, what, wow, what was that? And you kind of blink a little bit and then the image looks great. Well, that's because your brain is forcing itself to see the image properly. If the images are way off, your brain can't help you. But if they're slightly off, your brain forces your eyes to adjust the images into one image. Now, this is okay if you don't mind that kind of a situation. However, if you do get eye strain or headaches, that's actually what's going on, and that can happen with both the both systems, eccentric ring and the prism adjustment, because the image is out of adjustment or out of collimation, as they say. And so just a big old heads up on that if you are looking at that. If you pick up binoculars and all of a sudden your eyes kind of hurt for a second, and then all of a sudden, hey, it looks great, what's going on? That's what's going on. Your brain is just telling your eyes, shut up, stupid, I'm in charge. And then later on, if you use them a lot, you might end up getting a bit of a headache or eye strain. Okay, my friends, this video went on way too long. I hope that it was helpful to you, and thanks again for watching my videos.